Hello, and welcome to this special Christmas episode of Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 7 of Chobits. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. Alright, so based on the events of the previous episode and the name of this episode, it seems as though Chi is in all likelihood going to get some sort of a job, which, it's interesting, because on the one hand I do think she is capable of working and doing all that stuff, but on the other hand I don't think she's quite ready just yet, and, she might cause more trouble than it's worth. Unfortunately, however, Hideki seems to be struggling with, it seemed like math. And, the poor guy. Not everyone's good at math, and I feel like it's a fairly widespread problem for math teachers to not be particularly good at their job. Which isn't to say they don't understand math, I'm certain they do, but they're very poor at teaching it. It's sort of like a common trope whereby people don't understand math until you put it in terms of money. And, maybe a lot of that stuff doesn't necessarily apply to higher mathematics, but, if you can at least ground it in practical terms, it makes a lot more sense. And speaking of making sense of things, I think it really only makes sense that Hideki is suffering some sort of a nightmare. Nothing else would explain such a thing. Although, I get the feeling that maybe Chi's being a little bit adventurous while Hideki's sleeping. Ooh, okay, so we have a little bit from that book again. That doesn't bode well. Just because, this implies Chi would have to leave at some point, eventually. I guess it's nominally a good thing that it was just a dream, but, I think it is kind of remarkable that she is cognizant of what's going on and saying, hey, what's the deal here? She might not understand the concept of dreams and nightmares and all that, those things being foreign to a persicom, but I guess having some degree of understanding is sort of remarkable in and of itself. Yeah, I guess this is one of those weird, abstract things you can't really explain to a persicom, but, man. I feel like, considering how curious Chi is, I feel like sooner rather than later he'd probably have to give her an uncomfortable talk. Just, to avoid any misunderstandings in the future. I feel like that Hideki is willing to just sort of like think about this stuff Like, it's gonna lead to trouble, I imagine. So it seems like he really is flat broke. You know. Ooh. Okay, so he's being kind of flippant here. He's explaining to Chi that money's like a good thing. You should have it, you can buy things and all that. But, ooh, yeah. So he's just sort of explaining what a job is and all that. Like, a job is how you acquire money. Money is good to have. Chi's putting two and two together here and thinking, ooh, I should get a job. You know. Oh. Man. Okay, so... Oh. Whoa, buddy. So I guess, Chi put two and two together here. She should get a job, but maybe she should aim a bit higher than answering classifieds from a magazine like that. Woo, buddy. Now, that's an interesting reaction that she's disappointed by the prospect of not being able to get a job, which is a strangely human reaction from Chi. So yeah, I feel like at this point she maybe doesn't have a complete and total grasp of what she's doing, but I guess at least she's enthusiastic about it. So I feel like, regardless of what Hideki says, she's going to try and get a job, and it's probably not going to be an ideal job, I would say. You know, she knows to avoid shady jobs, but, I'm not convinced she has a perfect understanding of what that entails. I guess I'm wondering how shady this is gonna get. Just because, I don't know. I was sort of under the impression that Chobits was, like, exclusively wholesome, but, that's not entirely the case. Man, wouldn't it be something if she, worked at that same pub? That would be something, I guess. He could at least sort of wrangle her a little bit that way. I mean, at least he sort of understands that, Chi has a tendency to maybe be, like, absent-minded or, otherwise not understanding of normal social cues. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't see how Chi could get a job without an exceedingly understanding boss, I mean, maybe it's not too far-fetched, because it does seem that the world of Chobits is a very optimistic place where people are willing to help and, look out for one another. I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. It is interesting that Hideki is seemingly burned through his savings, even though the idea was to, like, get a job to prevent doing that. Maybe it's like a little thing we're not meant to worry about, but I think that that certainly doesn't bode well, if you've burned through your savings even though you do have a job now. Maybe he's right. He really should cut back on those magazines, Ooh. That's very telling that Hideki's coworker's like, oh, I'm sure your person comes very cute. That's an interesting reaction. That's almost like jealousy. Carefully disguised jealousy, I feel like. And I do feel like Hideki probably made the mistake of not explicitly telling Chi to stay home. Because, she hasn't shown herself to be a competent navigator, but, ooh. Now, I'm wondering, are persicams just, like, allowed to walk around unattended? I feel like they probably could, but... Ooh. Okay, so a good job, short hours, great pay. Yeah, I mean, like, the guy's taking Chi into an alley. I think this is, in fact, one of those shady jobs she was told to avoid. You know, I don't want to, like, pass judgment yet. This could be, like, a nice, you know, kind-hearted guy who is sincerely offering her a job, but, man, something tells me Chi's gonna be doing something kind of unsavory. I mean, like, this pub has a persicom. Like, there's no real reason why Chi shouldn't be able to work, except that, you know, being self-learning, you know, she might need a little bit of extra help. Ooh. So it's interesting that Yumi would just sort of, like, offer a meal. You know, I feel like she's kind of taking pity on the poor guy because he's not good at managing his money. But unfortunately, I think he's getting the wrong impression here. You know, this is kindness rather than affection. Ooh. Yeah, you know, I guess that is something that, like, generally speaking, persicams might be capable of housework and cooking and things like that. And, you know, Chi might get there someday, but she's not really capable as of yet. Yeah, so that's, I think that's a little carefully guarded envy right there. She's like, oh, you know, like, you're worried about your persicam, but she'll be okay. They can do pretty much anything. And I guess even Hideki notices that she's, like, depressed about it. I think depressed is too strong a word, but there's certainly, like, a bit of envy there. I guess it doesn't help that all persicams seem to exclusively be cute girls, you know? So this is interesting. You know, back with the persicom expert, he seems to be running diagnostics. You know, like, is his own persicom not okay after, like, the incident? Because, like, boy. Oh. Okay, so he's got a video of Chi. That's not a good thing. Oh dear. You know, ooh, buddy. The job listed in the magazine, like, that was bad in its own way, but this is, like, orders of magnitude worse, I feel like. Oh, boy, there are a lot of holes in that wall. Ooh, it's a live stream, too. Oh, dear. Yeah, you know, Chi really doesn't understand what's going on here. And, oh, man. So I feel like this guy's not going to get any real answers out of Chi as to her manufacture and all that. Ooh. So I think she's, you know, spilling some information that, like, you know, Hideki essentially found her. Like, that's, privileged information. And it's not a good thing that she doesn't know what the word happy means either. Like, ooh boy. I mean, this guy's at least sort of like planting a seed that, you know, Hideki might love her. You know, he's happy to have found her and all that, which is certainly true, but oh dear. So at least, the Persicam expert is, correct. Hideki would not stand for something like this, but, he doesn't really know now, does he? So I guess the question is, what's gonna happen now? Surely Hideki's got to do something, but I feel like things wouldn't come to violence, would they? That would certainly be a normal reaction to a situation like this, but at the same time, I would like to believe that Chobits is, thoroughly optimistic and, the proprietor, upon learning what's happened, would just say oh, my mistake, it was a misunderstanding, it won't happen again. So unfortunately, Hideki has made the tactical error of telling Yumi she doesn't have to hurry while cooking this meal. Because, that's the polite thing, you don't want to rush her, she's cooking a meal for him, but at the same time, he certainly should be hurrying. I feel like if nothing else, he should sort of know that, she often has bizarre interpretations of things he says, so, maybe be very careful in how you word things and check up on her often. Well, that's a weird question. How do you prefer your eggs, sweet or not sweet? I guess, in my understanding of culinary matters, eggs generally aren't sweet at all. I guess it's a Japanese thing. Oh, Hideki. Ooh, buddy. You can't bring up stuff like that when you're talking to a woman, especially when she says, ooh, we're like newlyweds. Ooh, buddy. I guess it's good that his neighbors showed up. Alright, so the beans are gonna get spilled here. Wow, I hate to say this, but I feel like this is the sort of thing that, Hideki would almost watch of his own accord, but, man, unfortunately, this is a rather dire situation, and despite her own, best impulses to try and make Hideki happy, things have gotten, rather sticky. So I guess the question is, how do things get resolved? It's interesting that Sumomo is just sort of being handed off to Hideki. It's also unfortunate that he's not super good at following directions, but, he is rather distraught, oh dear. Yeah, this is, I'm thinking this is a double-edged sword here. Because on the one hand, she's learning stuff she probably shouldn't learn. But at the same time, she's, probably gonna, do this for Hideki at some point, much to his appreciation. And, man, I get the feeling she's gonna get kicked out. If she's just, poking a dude in the eye. Oh dear. Man, we're really just doing the whole thing, I guess. I guess it's kind of fortunate that she's so just sort of clumsy and, unknowledgeable of everything, that she doesn't know how to properly strip. Man, that's a weird statement. Oh dear. So I guess, at least, Chi's lack of understanding might, ruin the show for everyone, but, oh man, this guy's, learning, Boy, you really have to be careful telling her what to do, otherwise she's gonna like poke a guy in the eye again, but... Oh, that's where the power button is. Oh dear. You know, it occurs to me that might not be a uniform trait of all Persicons. It's also interesting that she's hearing another voice, be it like some deeply rooted programming or something else. Man, you know, like, I thought that bit in the first episode, turning Chian, I thought that was just, like, sort of meant to be comedic, but it seems to be having, like, wider implications here. Man, you know, like, this guy, for being, like, a sleazy proprietor, he sure is giving up kind of quickly. Although that said, she's certainly reacting bizarrely. Okay. So it seems like, that is some sort of, like, deeply rooted program giving her information here, and, like, the idea is that, like, you know, you only let someone you love reboot you, essentially, you know, euphemistically, which, I mean, that's, good enough advice for anyone, but, man, plot's getting real thick, cause, like, suppose, like, what happens when, like, you know, in the way that computers are, like, you do actually need to reboot for some reason, like, what then? Man, this really has, like, an air of, like, Windows, like, downloading an update at the worst possible time. Ooh. Okay, so I figured she would at least, like, try and stop the guy, but, seeing as how he's rebooted her against the instructions of that other program, like, I can only imagine things are gonna get hectic. Like, something doesn't give off that amount of light without, like, some sort of dire consequence. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. Merry Christmas, Space Cowboy.